Ben,
Ed.
it's time. We're starting.
Yes, it is.
It is our special Singapore's 57th National Day episode.
It is indeed. It is. We've come a long way since independence, and 57 years is more than any of us has lived. So,
Yes, we were born in.
19
Ostensibly, we are 90s kids.
Yeah.
Ostensibly. However, we're here to talk about Singapore, what it means to us, and some special topics regarding Singapore itself.
Yes, we are.
But of course, this is an anime podcast, but more importantly, it is an alcohol podcast.
Yes, it
So
is.
shall we get started on our whiskey review today?
Yes, it is. So, what do we have here, Ed?
Today, for this episode, we have a Sing Sing 12-year single grain whiskey.
Oh, Sing Sing. So, tell me more about the brand Sing Sing.
So the Sing Sing whiskey is a local Singapore brand with a Taiwanese distillery. They currently stock 3 different Sing Sing whiskies. They have a 12-year single malt whiskey, a 12-year single grain whiskey, which is what we will be reviewing today, and they also have a 15-year single malt whiskey. Alongside their selection of Sing Sing whiskies, they also have another 2 more whiskies. I believe the name of it is the English whiskey. But we will not be going to detail on those today. I personally am not too fond of them. However, what I am quite fond of is the whiskey we'll be reviewing, the Sing Sing 12-year single grain. I've personally had this whiskey in the past. I must say it is quite a quality whiskey. I'm sure you'll be enjoying it today.
Well, how fitting for a Singapore episode that we have a whiskey that is uniquely Singapore.
Yes, indeed. So shall we get started with our Sing Sing whiskey review?
Yeah, let us.
Alright, Ben, shall we have our Sing Sing 12-year single grain neat?
Yes, I can already smell it and it's quite enticing.
Alright, cheers.
Cheers, man. I think it smelled better from a distance. When up close, all I smell is the alcohol.
Really, I actually think that the alcohol taste is not that strong. Rather, I think the smell is quite nice. There is a very light floral scent to it.
Yeah. No, what I can say is that it's actually very light, like the taste.
Yep. Contrary to the smell, I think the alcohol strength is quite low in terms of the taste. Lightly sweet, and there's quite a complex note.
Yes, and the aftertaste doesn't actually linger for that long. It's a very dry whiskey.
It goes down smooth, although there is, like you say, that is the element of dryness that might make it a bit harsher on the throat. Although it flows, but it's kind of like sand flowing.
Yeah, and the complexity of it is really... It's slightly harder to pick up because it goes away that fast, and it's not really that overpowering, I would say.
Yes, it's not a very strong flavor.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a very nice flavor.
Yeah, it's definitely very pleasant on the palate. Yeah. The alcohol doesn't really come out, and it doesn't really last that long. So, yeah.
I think similar to the Kyushu Cowboy, it's a whiskey that is a bit more... It will be well suited to a beginner who is not too used to like a stronger bourbon, like the Statesman that we did in episode 1.
Yeah. Quite like this whiskey.
All in all, a very nice whiskey to have neat.
Yes. So Ed, you mentioned that you have actually tasted this brand of whiskey before. So how do you come to find about this Singaporean brand of whiskey?
Well, I was actually scrolling through this alcohol e-retailer. They're called Celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And I glanced upon the bottle of Sing Sing whiskey. So at first I did not differentiate between the single grain and the single malt. And I just randomly bought one, which happened to be the single grain. Sometime after buying the bottle, I actually went for an event of theirs. It was a alcohol festival called Cellar Fiesta. It was there that I attended a masterclass on the Sing Sing whiskey by the founder of Sing Sing whiskey himself. His name is Ryan. So there I got to try the Sing Sing 12-year single malt, the 12-year single grain, as well as the 15-year single malt, along with the English whiskey. And I must say, there was quite a lot of alcohol to be having in one night alone. I had refills.
I'm surprised you're able to walk out of there.
Yeah, I actually had to walk home from that, and I kind of got lost in the area as I was trying to find my way to a feasible bus stop that could actually bring me back.
Yeah, the location is quite deep into Ubi, so I can see how you get lost.
Well, I did find my way back eventually, understandably, but perhaps a different story that I could tell that is non-alcohol related. So, back before I became a toxic player on League of Legends,
there was such a time before that.
I was a toxic player on Dota 2.
Ah, right. Okay, never mind. I asked.
This was quite a while back. I played Dota 2 for a short period of time, from 2012. I think I still have the Bloodstone from when the Dota 2 beta keys were being given out.
Oh wow, that's a long time ago.
All the way until 2016. So maybe about 5 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
In 2014, when I was a strapping young 16-year-old lad, I had the opportunity to meet with, at that time, he had not yet retired, I think, professional player, and now currently variety / Dota 2 streamer. His name happens to be, oh my god, Sing Sing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he shares the same namesake as the whiskey that we are reviewing today in this episode.
Right.
So, Sing Sing, the streamer, his name is derived from his actual full name, which is Wehsing Yuen.
Okay.
He started his career as a Dota streamer. I think previously he was playing professionally for Hon, Heroes of New Earth, before he moved on to Dota 2 as a professional gamer. Then once he started playing Dota 2 professionally, he also streamed Dota 2 on Twitch.tv until he retired, I think in 2016 or somewhere around there. So perhaps a bit more etymology on Sing Sing the whiskey. So Sing Sing the whiskey is named after the Chinese characters Sing Sing, which is the first one is the character for new, Sin, and the second is the character for star, Sing.
Oh, is that what it means by a new star is born?
Yes, that is correct.
Ah.
So that is what the Sing Sing whiskey is. A new star is born. So it's meant to signify Singapore doesn't actually have like a domestic whiskey brand.
Right.
So Sing Sing hopes to take up that position and to become Singapore's like hallmark spirit or whiskey on the global scale with their Sing Sing whiskey selection.
Well, if that is their objective, they are certainly succeeding. It's a very nice, palatable whiskey. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Now back to Sing Sing, the streamer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've actually met Sing Sing, the streamer, before in Singapore. In 2014, he came down to Singapore to participate as a guest in a particular convention. It's called the Good Game Convention.
Mm-hmm.
The Good Game Convention it's kind of like it was more like an exhibition that is ran concurrently with a local Dota 2 competition. And Sing Sing was invited along with a few other Dota 2 personalities in Southeast Asia and Oceania. So from Australia, they have Toby1. And then from Korea, there is Zojanim. So actually, I heard that Sing Sing was going to be doing like a guest appearance at a particular LAN cafe in Dhoby Ghaut. It was the Oasis LAN cafe at Pomo, the shopping mall. So on Christmas, I went down to Pomo by myself to meet at that time, and still is, my favorite Dota 2 streamer, Sing Sing. It was there that, hey, I came face to face with the man himself.
Wow.
My goodness.
What a stroke of luck.
I would say it's a stroke of luck indeed. But you know what's the bigger stroke of luck?
Oh, pray tell.
So, they were having an exhibition match on a recently released game mode. The game mode is called ARDM, or All Random Deathmatch. In essence, what the game mode is about is that each team has a stock of 40 lives. Within that 40 lives, the 5 players will be given random heroes to start off with. Every time they die, they would respawn as a new hero and carry on their current items and their current level. So they will have to reallocate their current skill points based on their level into new skills, but still retain the same items.
Oh, sounds chaotic.
This will come in relevant slightly later. So on this game mode, they were using it for the exhibition match, and the exhibition match, the enemy team of sorts was going to be selected from all the fans that were currently gathered at Oasis LAN Cafe. I was one of those fans, yes. But what happened was that in order to select the enemy team against the guests, they had like a sort of quiz. So they asked trivia questions about the guests, and the main they kind of like had no good questions, so they really just asked questions about Sing Sing himself. So me being his fan, I tried my best to answer the questions so that I could get onto the enemy team. So I remember that each person got like one chance to answer a question. And so the question I raised my hand to answer was, what is Sing Sing's 2 favorite heroes? Of which I answered Ember Spirit and Storm Spirit. It was wrong. So I flubbed my chance.
Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah.
Some fan you are.
Yeah. At the time, Ember Spirit was a very new hero, and Sing was actually playing Ember Spirit quite well. But apparently, it was not a chosen answer, regrettably. So I lost my chance to play on the enemy team, as they got like 5 players from the crowd. Then, as I was just moping around, like wondering what the hell am I doing here, that I can't play against anyone. Sing Sing himself was having a nice, he was talking to Toby1, who was his friend, and then apparently, I did not know at the time, they did not have a 5th player for their team. So their team consisted of Sing Sing, Toby1, Sojanim, and the last player was the 4th player they had was the host of the Good Game Convention. So they needed a 5th. So the big stroke of luck I had was that I was standing close by to Sing and Toby as they were talking. Then they were approached by the host and they needed a fifth. Sing looked up, saw me, he pointed at me, said, "Hey you, fat fuck." Yeah, I was like, "Yeah?" It was like, yeah, you." I was like, yeah. I was like, "Yeah, come over here." I was like, and then I was like, "Oh, wait, what the fuck?"
Oh my, what a stroke of luck indeed.
And then I walked over and they're like, "Hey you, you're on our team."
Oh wow.
And the boy was like, "Whoa, wait, for real?" It was actually true. So they had me fitted up for, I think it was Aces Rock something. Had me log into my account, and then they had me set up for exhibition match. Now, I'm not a good player. I'm a really shit Dota player. And Dota differs from League of Legends in the sense that you actually rely on a lot more key bindings compared to League of Legends. So on League, you might have like 2 or 3, I think at most, items that you can use from your inventory. Maybe like, I don't know, Redemption plus Zhonya's. Say. Whereas in Dota, you could potentially have an item to use in every single inventory key slot. And this is even before they implemented neutral items in the backpack.
Wow.
So you could have like 10 items.
I mean,
to
you
rotate
could,
around.
if you were ambitious enough, I mean, you could pull off in League, but yeah, I could see it happening in Dota a lot.
Yep. So me being on an unfamiliar setup and me playing a ARDM with Sing and Toby, you can see from this picture, I'm in it. I was wearing body glove. So I was playing ARDM with Sing, and I'm sitting beside him, so he could commentate on like the stupid shit I'm doing in game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were plenty.
I fed really hard. I fed like 10 lives out of 40. Like, the most iconic thing I remember was that I bought the Hand of Midas. If you know what the Hand of Midas is, it is an active item that you can use. You can click on a neutral or enemy creep, and it will give you 190 reliable gold. So Dota is a gold mechanic where you get unreliable and reliable gold. Reliable gold is permanent in the sense that if you die, you don't lose it. Unreliable gold is, as the namesake, you lose it if you die.
Oh wow.
So reliable gold, unreliable give you kind of like it gives you a very fluctuating personal economy that you use to buy items. So Hand of Midas, the value of it comes in that it gives you a lot of reliable gold if you are active in using it every 90 seconds.
Right.
So what the thing I most remember about this game is that Sing Sing flamed me for buying the Hand of Midas. And then to add fuel to the fire, I bought Dagon. If you know what Dagon is, essentially is an item with 5 tiers or 5 levels. So you can buy a recipe and it will upgrade the level. Essentially is a magic stick where you fire a laser beam at people. It gives you like burst damage. So he flamed me for buying both the Hell Midas and Dagon in ARDM.
Yeah, it sounds stupid, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, the entire purpose of Sing Sing is probably to just carry you.
Yeah, and well, we lost. We lost.
No, I can't. I wonder why.
It just might be the 10 deaths that I fed.
It just might be. Who knows?
But I would say that meeting Sing Sing was quite possibly one of the best times that I had in 2014. This concludes my Sing Sing story, man.
Unfortunately, I don't think I have any similar stories. Well, to be fair, I never really went out of the way to go to these conventions, but yeah.
Yep.
So, I think we should move on to the Sing Sing on the rocks.
Sure.
Alright, let's give it a try.
Alright, Ben. Shall we try the Sing Sing 12-year single grain on the rocks?
Yes.
Cheers, man.
Man.
The alcohol hits hard.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind, and actually the only thing that comes to mind. Like like the fact that it was that mellow, even before the addition of the ice cube. Like, yeah, the addition of any additional liquid makes the taste really just disappear, if I may say so.
Yeah, it just hit hard. I think on the rocks is not a very good choice.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, there is a slight aftertaste. After everything settles down, very, very slight aftertaste. But it's quite sweet aftertaste, I think.
I would say it's a similar kind of taste to rum. It's got a mildly fruity, very. It's a mellow fruity sweetness. I can't quite place my finger on like what kind of whether it's a proper fruit. There's also a bit of spice. It's not a very overpowering spice, but I think it's something that's drawn out by the ice.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's very hard. It's very hard to place your finger on a cloud.
Oh boy, it's cause of the alcohol. It just
it hits
amplified
really
it like 50% or something.
Yeah, man. And you'll think that the ice will bring out a bit more of the flavor itself and mellow down the alcohol percentage, but surprisingly, the alcohol is the only thing I taste now.
Yeah, we're getting in quite a fascinating inversion right here.
Yeah, that rounds off. I think that's essentially Sing Sing on the rock.
Yup.
Yeah.
Alright, Ben.
Yep.
I think the Sing Sing on the Rocks was quite a bit stronger than I expected. Let's detract back to the other part of what this podcast is about. Let's talk about anime.
Yeah.
Perhaps let's talk about Singapore in anime.
I mean, considering this is the Singapore episode, so we should probably talk about Singapore a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. What comes to mind when we're talking about Singapore anime?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is JoJo.
Oh, JoJo?
Yes, is that a JoJo reference?
Part 3.
Stardust Crusaders, yes.
I think the most memorable part was it played a parody of how draconian fines are.
Yeah, Singapore being a fine country indeed.
Yep. But also, the policemen are quite jacked in the JoJo anime.
Well, to be fair, everyone in the JoJo universe, well, the male characters specifically, tend to be very jacked.
Well, we can attribute it more to like an art style thing.
Yeah, fair.
It tapers down in part 4 onwards. I think the generation of JoJos from Josuke onwards tend to skew in a more leaner side. Yeah, or keeping to that athletic ideal rather than a extremely muscular ideal.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually mentioned how like the proportions and the general anatomy in the JoJo universe is quite reflecting of actual anatomy.
I would say that part 4 is a more realistic depiction of the average human, whereas the part 1 and part 3 tend to be more of a actual professional bodybuilder physique.
Yeah, but we are detracting a bit from the Singaporean theme in JoJo and in the other animes that we have seen Singapore being depicted, such as
I think Sora Yori.
yeah,
Sora Yori mo Toibashi or something along the way.
and other than the explicit depictions of Singapore, I think there is a mention of Singapore in the anime Plastic Memories, where they use Singapore as the inspiration for some of the settings that they go through in one of the chase scenes.
Yes. Speaking of settings, I think what is iconic about Singapore in anime is that they use the Singapore's national icon of the Malayan.
Indeed.
So
yes, it's all over the place.
It's not just Sorayori where they visit Singapore when they're having a layover.
Mm-hmm.
I think other animes like Setokai no Ichizon,
Mm.
they do reference the Malayan as Singapore's main icon.
Even in JoJo, they highlighted the Malayan in a few scenes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I mean, well, to be fair, Singapore isn't really just the Malayan. There are other aspects, but it is hard to pinpoint exactly what exactly makes Singapore stand out uniquely. So, from what I understand, Singapore, as portrayed in other media, has been portrayed as a very advanced society with like very advanced technology, a society that is like very tech savvy and whatnot. But you know, it's
Yeah, part of it I think is attributed to the nature of globalization and how well it manifests in Singapore.
I think the other thing is that the Singapore government actually attempts to portray this like very advanced side of Singapore. Like you can see in the landscape of the business district that Singapore has a certain image it wishes to portray. Yeah.
Yes, but speaking of Singapore and image, I think I would like to bring up a very funny example that I have. So, this is kind of like a spoiler, not say spoiler, but a foreshadowing of future episode. So in the manga Kengan Omega, there's a Kengan Omega is a fighting manga, and speaking of fighting, they have fighters. In particular, I'm going to talk about one prize fighter who happens to be a Singaporean character.
Wow.
So in Kengan Omega, we have the character Albert Lee. It's a very typical Singaporean name. Albert Lee being like the typical Chinese male.
Yeah, you have this mix of the Christian name with the influence of the Chinese traditional surname plus the traditional Chinese name.
That's correct. But this Albert Lee guy goes by the name the Falcon. In his
punch.
well, the ostensible Captain Falcon reference aside, so Albert Lee or the Falcon is a prize fighter for an organization called Purgatory. Prior to this, he fought in a Chinese martial arts promotion. However, what makes the Falcon is that he has done specific training to produce what I would say is dinosaur-like fingernails and toenails that
Wow.
look like claws, or rather a bird's claws or bird's talons.
That's interesting.
However, what makes this character stand out is the fact that he, like us, is a weeb.
Oh wow.
And what he did was that while he was prize fighting as a fighter, he happened to watch a movie that is inspired by Naruto.
Oh wow.
So he caught his first bout of irrationality, and as a result of that, he adopted ninja training methods.
Yes, I can see all the freaking tuning wheels out there.
So aside from making hand signs while standing on a tree, he has done various other ninja things and has somehow managed to incorporate it into a fighting style.
Interesting.
So he calls it ninja misdirection, where he makes hand signs very fast and then he attacks after that.
What the? Yeah, that would definitely show me off.
But detracting from the fact that he's a prize fighter and that he does like hand signs while inside a ring, is the fact that he, like us, was inspired by anime to do things. In this case, it was to do real anime training like I have.
Right.
Aside from that, it's also the fact that he is particularly mentioned to be a Singaporean character with a background that is kind of I would say it's a very idealized Singaporean image in that he is like the son of a banker. a very well-to-do family, very advanced, well-educated, well-groomed individual.
Yeah, that's pretty much the ideal image of the Singaporean, the son of a successful parents and enterprising individual. But interestingly enough, the creative industry in Singapore isn't really that big.
It isn't?
I would say it isn't really because from what from what I understand from my friends in the creative industry, both in the arts and the music industry, the Singaporean scene is quite limited, and usually they would go overseas to Britain or the US or essentially anywhere other than Singapore to pursue their dreams in the creative industry.
But you mean MediaCorp isn't the be-all end-all of everything?
I mean, their dramas are a bit, questionable at best. But
I would say that they had a golden heyday back when I was a young child, but not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like most of the entertainment that we see in Singapore are imported from foreign lands, which reflects a somewhat putting the foreign developed stuff on a pedestal, if you put it that way, just like how the Japanese view the Malayan in an extolled pedestal.
A bit of a contextualized, the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, as in usually in most cases something foreign is given more value than the local, and since Singapore is such a small country, there isn't really much to extol. Yeah,
Understandably so.
yeah, it's interesting because the artist that actually created our thumbnail, Rragewolf, actually has their pricing in terms of US dollars, because they mentioned to me that the Singaporean market is too small and actually they get more requests from overseas such as Britain.
Understandable. I
Yeah.
think the cultural values of foreign lands would be more, I would say, in alignment with Rragewolf's art style and the kind of works that they produce.
Yes, you don't really find that many furries in Singapore, I guess. But yeah, interestingly enough. So,
Then we're not furries, but I must say she's good at her job.
yes, she is. But yeah, interestingly enough, the Singaporean identity, something unique to Singapore itself, is very hard to pinpoint. Like, I've been considering, because we had planned this Singapore episode a while back, I've been considering what exactly makes Singapore Singapore and what exactly to talk about in this episode, which I couldn't really find a satisfactory answer to. Like, what exactly makes us Singapore? Like, in anime, we see different kinds of portrayals of Singapore. So in Charlotte, it's not really the idealized advanced economy that Singapore is. It reflects a somewhat backwards part of Singapore. Not say backwards, but the more kampong side of Singapore.
I'll say people usually tend to have a very fast or superficial understanding of lands that are foreign to them.
Yeah.
So for most people, they typically just see like a very idealized version, or they just see the good, but they never see the bad. That would be kind of more visible to the people who are native to the land.
Yeah, but for Singapore, it's like there isn't really anything that stands out particularly, because I think part of it is the ideology of globalization making everything more homogeneous. And since Singapore is one of the forerunners in this globalized world, the culture that it has adopted isn't really something that is very unique. I mean, we try to pose our uniqueness in terms of food culture, I guess, but Malaysia is contesting that. And in terms of the localized HDBs and whatnot, it's a bit hard to identify any specific culture in Singapore.
Perhaps what comes to my mind is that I think we do have our own unique colloquial way of communication in the form of Singlish.
Hmm.
Well, I think Singlish tends to come off a bit more easily in casual conversations in terms of swearing and cussing.
Yes, indeed.
It manifests quite easily whenever we're talking.
Yeah, but it isn't really something that is recognized as very Singaporean, I guess.
No, I would say that the way Singlish is used in communication is that makes Singapore stand out in comparison to other countries.
Mm.
So while other countries tend to have monolingual communication,
Mm.
otherwise they would also have other countries don't tend to have communication that uses multiple languages in a very fluid manner
Mm.
that still gets the point across.
Right.
Whereas in Singapore, you tend to use abbreviations, you tend to use slang, you tend to use a lot of cross-cultural words that help to communicate meaning
Mm.
in a way that you typically do not see in monolingual countries.
Mm.
So while they do have their own slang and their own way of communicating using dialect or using single languages, they don't blend languages quite the same way that Singapore does. And I think that the use of Singlish can technically constitute a bit of identity.
Yeah, I think that's one way to put the uniqueness of Singapore is that the different cultures in Singapore are blended into one. But that also kind of makes Singapore so generic because everything is blended into one homogeneous culture, and there isn't really any unique standout culture within this, say, melting pot. Is that the right term? I guess it's one of the terms that they use. But yeah. Speaking of mixing, shall we try out the mixer?
Sure, let's try out the Sing Sing 12-year single grain with a mixer.
Yeah, let us. So,
Alright, Ben.
the mixer?
Mixer.
Indeed.
There's a streaming
Cheers.
platform. Cheers.
Yeah, it's just alcoholic Coke Zero.
Yep.
Though with a hint of vanilla at the end.
Really?
It's a very slight. I mean, it may just be your COVID after effects that is hindering your sense of taste.
I would say it's a bit like flowery Coke. I don't know why.
Yeah, there is a floral vanilla aftertaste to it.
Yeah. I'm getting like the dense floral flavors, but
Yes.
not getting the vanilla that I would desire from this.
Well, I mean, most whiskeys mixed with Coke tend to taste like vanilla Coke, so it's kind of expected, but otherwise nothing really special.
Yeah. I think this whiskey was best neat.
I mean, it's not too bad as a mixer, so I'll give it that.
But nothing is amplified, nothing is improved when mixed. It
fair.
just imparted the alcoholic nature to the Coke to make it like a common drinking party drink.
To be fair, it's a very beginner friendly whiskey.
Yep. I think it's best enjoyed neat, but I wouldn't think too much if it was mixed. But I'm certainly not going to have it with ice cubes alone.
Yeah, that's something that I would avoid. Yeah.
Overall, I would say that the whiskey was as a nice as a standalone,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing too particularly good happened once it was mixed or on the rocks.
Right.
If I were to arbitrarily score it, I think 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, my thoughts about there 7 out of 5. I mean 7 out of 10 about there.
Yeah,
7 out of 10. Yeah.
I think that's a wrap for the Sing Sing 12-year single grain whiskey.
Yeah, that should be about it.
Alright, Ben.
Yeah.
Now that we had our Sing Sing whiskey with everything,
Mm-hmm.
how about we go on to our next topic?
Yeah. Why not? So it's about how we actually met.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the origins of the Whiskey and Weed podcast.
Mm.
When exactly did we meet again?
I think it was in secondary school when we had tuition together.
Yeah. I
No.
think we met in the year 2012 when we were both in Sec 2.
2012, 2013, around there.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, we met because I sucked at math.
Yeah.
And we both. I had to get tuition for my failing math grades in
Yeah.
Sec 2 before we went on to Sec 3 and we took on a secondary math subject, A math.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I was also failing math at that point, so you're not alone.
Yeah. So we met in 2012 for math tuition. We actually stuck around for like quite a long time together. I think it was around 5 months at least.
Yeah, I think it was closer to a year actually.
Yeah, we spent quite a lot of time together.
Yes, and we were already weebs back then.
That is quite true.
Yes.
I was more of a edgy shonen boy.
I mean, to be fair, at that point, most people in the weeb club would be edgy shonens with the Chunibyo syndrome.
Well, perhaps to reinforce the fact that I'm an edgy person, my favorite Pokemon is Giratina, and my favorite anime at the time was Bleach.
Ah, yes, the typical edgy persona.
Except now I can say that Bleach is making a return in, I think, either the end of this year or next year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're bringing back the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, which is the last and most anticipated arc of the entire Bleach story. Aside from that, we did go our separate ways in Sec 3.
Yeah.
What happened to you actually?
Well, I mean, I was focused, I require a little bit more assistance with my A math. I think you didn't follow through on A math?
Okay, what happened to me was that I left the tuition that we were at and I went to a different tuition center with some of my schoolmates. Not say schoolmates, but classmates. And I went for a separate math tuition where I actually learned how to play cards.
Oh, wow, that is interesting math tuition.
Yeah, I actually spent more time playing cards instead of doing A math.
I mean, to be fair, A math is quite the shit subject, but yeah, I mean,
Surprisingly, I did manage to. I failed my A math going from Sec 3 to Sec 4, but I did manage to pull through at O levels and get myself a bunch of A's, A2s, yes, but I did manage to get my A's for math.
yeah, that's all we really require from A math. But yeah, interestingly, we actually took the same course in university, and that's how we got back together.
That is true.
It's quite the coincidence.
We took a creative writing module together.
Yes, the creative writing module, which is restrictive of creativity, but
Yeah, I actually didn't. I actually was like quite shocked when I saw your name on the class list.
yeah.
You remember I sent you a message asking, wait, are you actually the same band that I knew?
Yeah, I was like, huh, Edward? That Edward?
Right? Because
Yeah.
we hadn't seen each other for a very long time. We only had very few back and forth messages on Facebook, and that's about it.
Yeah, that was about it.
But other than that, that's how we met back in university after a hiatus of well, not say hiatus, that's a very loose term.
Yeah.
After like a
A
long
gap of
period.
about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, we kind of spent the whole module as a trio with another person.
Yeah. Just dumping it out. Fuck it.
And just dicking around the
Yeah.
entirety of the module. And sometime afterwards, we actually have to get to the alcohol part now. I was I the one who brought it up?
Possibly. I mean, we were both into whiskey at that time, and yeah, we just happened to find out about our mutual interest in whiskey. And I think our discussion of whiskey in class actually ticked off our professor. Well, not professor.
Lecturer.
Lecturer.
Lecturer?
Yeah.
Lecturer. Yeah. And it was then that we actually had our first drinking session together. I brought a Maker's Mark bourbon. Well, you brought a what was it?
I think it was what was it again?
Cavalier, right?
Kevlan, and there was the other one which
Yes,
is
a
the-
Balvenie 14 years.
Yes, the Balvenie 14 years, which was sitting in my fridge for quite a while.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that's where we actually came up with the idea for this podcast.
Yep. Though we didn't think of a name at the time, but we wanted to do a podcast because we,
I mean,
didn't want to pay for alcohol anymore.
Yeah,
So hopefully our viewership would have tied us over and gotten us enough, either got us enough ad revenue to buy more whiskey to sponsor future episodes, or actual sponsors who wanted to pay us money to drink.
Yeah, that's the origin story of this podcast.
Yep. A duo in Singapore who just wanted to talk about anime while drinking alcohol.
Indeed, man, it's very hard to find people who are interested in both alcohol and anime. Well, to be fair, the social groups for anime tend to be quite underground, I guess.
Underground? Niche?
Niche, yeah, because people don't tend to have the best impressions of the weeb community in Singapore. Even though it is starting to improve, I think I saw a study indicating that about 50% of Singaporeans actually have actually have watched anime. And for the people that haven't watched, a good number of them are considering anime.
Actually, I think that this was something that we were supposed to bring up during the pilot, but we forgot. Is that the term weeb has actually lost its derogatory tone over time. If anything, it has become kind of a subculture within media. Nowadays people are actually relating or finding an identity in watching anime, and they have started calling themselves in a less derogatory and in more of a fun way. They're calling themselves weebs. In casual fashion. It's kind of lost its touch as a insult, and it's become more of a casual identity that people just refer to themselves as when they watch anime. I don't think that Singaporeans have the same stigma as otakus in Japan.
Indeed, I think it's just that the Singaporean in general doesn't really, fall into the derogatory weeb category. It's like, at least most of us are functional beings.
Yeah, there also isn't the same cultural stigma that you would find in Japan.
Yeah.
Rather, I think it's just another type of consumable media.
It is a different subculture. It's just like the freaking Korea booze, but that's a different subculture.
Yeah, even then, it's not something that's viewed in a particularly derogatory fashion
Right.
anymore.
I think actually, interestingly enough, right? Singapore, MediaCorp. You remember the periods when it was called Kids Central?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, during those times even, the late night programming actually had anime within it.
Well, yeah, I remember that back when they had Kids Central before it became Octo.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually where I started watching anime instead of Nickelodeon.
Yeah, exactly.
While Nickelodeon is responsible for my exposure to Naruto, I do believe that Kids Central was responsible for the airing of Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, the name of One Piece. Yeah,
Yeah,
the name of few.
that's where my introduction to the isekai genre actually started with Zero no the Family of Zero.
Zero no Tsukaima.
Yes.
Yeah, for me it was my introduction to shonen. I remember distinctly that Dragon Ball Z was always repeatedly airing on Kids Central, especially the Frieza arc, where it was, I would say, is the most notable moment of the Dragon Ball of the Dragon Ball franchise, which is the point in time where Goku attains the Super Saiyan form, which is what is the most well known. Because culturally, people don't really know much about Dragon Ball, apart from the term going Super Saiyan.
I mean, there's also over 9,000, but
Well, over 9,000 happens to be like a dubbing error, and it depends. It depends on the like who's the or which version is being aired. I think that there are times where, cause the original dubbing of the scene is it's over 8,000, not 9,000.
Oh.
Whereas the over 9,000 part is in a particular dub of the Dragon Ball Z anime. I'm not sure whether it's a Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is one of the newer versions of Dragon Ball Z. But, well, it has become a meme.
Yes, it has indeed become one of the staple memes of the weeaboo culture.
Indeed.
But yeah, even back then, the weeaboo culture was not that stigmatized, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was only when other cultures created the negative connotation of what weeaboos are and what weebs are, which was then passed down to Singapore and the media culture here. Otherwise, I don't think there was ever any kind of negative implication to watching anime.
Yeah, and this leads back to my discussion about something that makes Singapore unique. Like most of the cultures that we have over here are imported, per se. Yeah, which makes Singapore somewhat of just a generalist, like nothing too special about it.
Well, if anything, I think something that people would always, Singaporeans would always need to consider is what truly makes you Singaporean. It's definitely a question that begs a bit more thinking.
Indeed.
Because the nature of identity is that you have to find it yourself, and whether it can be abstracted to the community is another issue.
Indeed.
Because you're going to need a common consensus if you want to adopt it as a group identity. However, it really is up to you to find out what makes Singapore, or what makes you uniquely Singaporean, and whether you are able to bear that mark to bear.
Yeah.
Whether you can bear it proudly as part of your personal identity.
Yeah, but to be fair, Singapore does exist as a country on its own, and I think in general, after these 57 years of independence, the general consensus is that Singaporeans are proud to be, and that we don't really how would I put it, yeah, we have this general idea of what it means to be Singaporean, and we are generally proud of it. And yeah, that forms the national identity of Singapore.
I'd say.
Now, is there anything else that we should discuss in this episode about Singapore? I mean, there's definitely the topics about NS, the shared experience of Singaporeans, but that's a different topic that we can go into in a future episode.
I think this episode has went well for a rather slice of life episode. I think we're going to be doing more in the future, aside from our typical fitness and sociology episodes.
Yeah.
Rather, if you, the audience, really like these episodes where we talk about more generic things and air our opinions, please do let us know in the comments. Give us some feedback on our social media at Whiskies and Weebs.
Which will be linked in the description. And yeah, remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode.
And more importantly, please drink responsibly.
Yes.
For all that said, we'll see you in the next episode of Whiskies and Weebs.
Alright, see you around.